It was just another dull evening in our small town. My friends and I, bored out of our minds, decided to spice things up a bit. We were going to pull a prank at the local supermarket, something that would get us a few laughs and maybe even go viral on social media. Little did we know, this prank would turn out to be the most terrifying experience of our lives. The plan was simple. We'd hide in the aisle where they kept the paper towels and jump out at unsuspecting shoppers, filming their reactions for our video. As we crept through the store, the fluorescent lights flickered above us, casting eerie shadows on the shelves. We reached the paper towel aisle, and I felt a chill run down my spine. Something felt off, but I couldn't put my finger on it. We set up our camera and waited for our first victim. It didn't take long for an elderly woman to wander down the aisle. We sprang into action, jumping out with our arms flailing and our voices raised. The woman screamed and dropped her basket, the contents spilling out onto the floor. In hindsight, this was pretty mean, but we laughed, thinking we'd pulled off the perfect prank. But then, something strange happened. The air in the aisle began to shimmer and swirl, as if a portal had opened up before our very eyes. A gust of wind blew through the store, knocking over shelves and sending paper towels flying in all directions. We stood frozen in fear, unable to comprehend what was happening. The portal grew larger, and from within it, we could see glimpses of another world. It was dark and foreboding, filled with twisted trees and creatures that looked like something out of a nightmare. We tried to run, but it was too late. The portal had taken hold of us, pulling us in with an invisible force. We tumbled through the darkness, our screams echoing in the void. When we finally landed, we found ourselves in a strange and terrifying place. The sky was a sickly green, and the ground was littered with bones. The air was thick with the stench of death, and we could hear the distant howls of unknown creatures. We tried to find our way back to the portal, but it was nowhere to be found. We were trapped in this nightmarish dimension, with no way of returning home. As the days turned into weeks, we learned to survive in this hellish landscape, constantly on the run from the monsters that lurked in the shadows. To this day, we still don't know what happened that night at the supermarket. Was it all just a prank gone horribly wrong? Or did we really open a portal to another dimension? One thing's for sure though, we'll never forget the horrors we faced in that paper towel aisle. For a few summers during high school, I worked in our town's paper towel factory. Little did I know that doing so would lead to the scariest moment of my life. It was a hot summer day, and I was working the late shift, restocking the shelves with fresh rolls of paper towels. The factory was eerily quiet, with only the hum of the machines and the occasional creak of the old wooden floorboards. As I was working, I heard a strange noise coming from the back of the factory. It sounded like someone was whispering, but when I turned around, there was no one there. I shrugged it off and continued with my work, but the whispering grew louder and more persistent. I decided to investigate and followed the sound to a small, dimly lit room at the back of the factory. As I entered the room, the whispering stopped, and the room was filled with an eerie silence. I looked around, and my eyes fell on an old, dusty roll of paper towels on the floor. Curiosity got the better of me, and I picked up the roll, only to find that it was filled with strange symbols and writing in a language I couldn't understand. I felt a chill run down my spine as I realized that the paper towels were cursed. Suddenly, the room started to shake, and the walls began to close in on me. I tried to run, but it was too late. The cursed paper towels had come to life, and they were determined to take me with them. I screamed as they wrapped around me, pulling me into their cursed embrace. As I struggled to free myself, I heard a voice in my head, telling me that I was doomed to spend eternity trapped within the cursed paper towels. I closed my eyes, praying for a miracle, but it was too late. I was lost to the darkness, a prisoner of the cursed paper towels. To this day, I still wake up in a cold sweat, haunted by the memory of that fateful day in the paper towel factory. The cursed paper towels may have taken my body, but they will never take my soul. Did you ever use paper towels for arts and crafts in school? Well, I did, and it led to one of the strangest experiences in my life. It was a typical day at school, and our teacher had us working on a project using paper towels as a medium for our artwork. Little did I know that this seemingly innocent activity would lead to a series of events that would haunt me for years to come. As I was working on my project, I accidentally spilled some water on my paper towel. I didn't think much of it at first, but as the day went on, I noticed that the paper towel started to change color. It went from a crisp white to a dull gray, and then to a deep black. I was puzzled by this, but I didn't think much of it and continued with my day. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I kept thinking about the paper towel and the strange color change. Eventually I fell asleep, but my dreams were filled with images of the black paper towel. The next day, I went back to school and tried to forget about the incident, but as the day went on, I started to notice that the other students were acting strangely. They were whispering to each other and giving me strange looks. I tried to ignore it, but the feeling of unease only grew stronger. That night, I woke up to the sound of scratching at my window. I got up to investigate, and to my horror, I saw the black paper towel hovering outside my window. It was moving on its own, and it seemed to be trying to get inside. I was terrified, and I quickly shut the window and drew the curtains. The next day I told my teacher about what had happened, but she didn't believe me. She said it was just my imagination and that I should focus on my schoolwork instead. But I still couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. As the days went on, the black paper towel continued to haunt me. It would appear in my dreams, and I would wake up to the sound of it scratching at my window. I was afraid to go to sleep at night, and I couldn't focus on my schoolwork. One night, about 2 weeks later, as I lay in bed, I heard a voice calling my name. I got up and followed the voice to the kitchen, where I found the black paper towel sitting on the counter. It was speaking to me, telling me that it was my friend and that it wanted to help me. I was terrified, but at the same time, I was drawn to the paper towel. I don't know how long I stood there, listening to the paper towel speak, but eventually I snapped out of it. I realized that this was all in my head, and that the paper towel was just a piece of paper. I threw it away and went back to bed, determined to put this experience behind me. But even now, years later, I can't help but wonder if there was something more to that black paper towel. Was it really just my imagination? Or was there something more sinister at play? I guess I'll never know for sure. I never knew paper towels could be the subject of so many lame jokes, but for a span of 2 weeks in college, I learned more about that topic than I ever wanted to know. It all started when my roommate, a self-proclaimed comedian, decided to pull a prank on me. He had a strange fascination with puns and jokes involving paper towels, and he thought it would be hilarious to fill our entire dorm room with rolls of paper towels while I was away for the weekend. When I returned, I was greeted with an overwhelming sight. Hundreds of rolls of paper towels were scattered all over the room, covering every inch of the floor, furniture, and even the walls. It was like a bizarre, monochromatic art installation. "Hey, buddy, what's the deal with all the paper towels?" I asked, trying to keep my composure. "Oh, you know, just trying to roll with the punches," he said, grinning from ear to ear. I groaned inwardly, realizing that this was just the beginning of a long, pun-filled ordeal. For the next 2 weeks, my roommate would not let up. Every time I entered the room, he would greet me with a new paper towel-related pun or joke. "Hey, did you know that paper towels are the ultimate party animals? They're always ready to roll," he would exclaim, laughing at his own cleverness. I tried to ignore him, but it was impossible. The puns were everywhere, like a never-ending stream of recycled jokes. "Why do paper towels make terrible musicians? Because they can't handle the sheet music," he would shout as I tried to study for my exams. Eventually I couldn't take it anymore. I decided to fight fire with fire, or in this case, puns with puns. I started coming up with my own paper towel jokes, hoping to outwit my roommate. "Why did the paper towel go to jail? Because it was caught in a roll," I said, feeling a twinge of pride at my own cleverness. But as it turned out, my roommate was a master of the craft, and he always had a comeback ready. "Why don't paper towels like to dance? Because they're afraid of getting wrapped up in the music," he retorted, and I knew I was outmatched. The 2 weeks felt like an eternity, and I started to lose my mind. I couldn't focus on my studies, and I found myself dreaming about paper towels at night. Finally, the day came when my roommate decided to end his reign of terror. He gathered all the paper towels and announced that he was going to donate them to a local shelter. "I guess you could say I'm going to roll out the red carpet for those in need," he said, and I couldn't help but chuckle. As I watched him pack up the paper towels, I realized that, despite the annoyance, I had learned something valuable from this experience. I had learned that even the most mundane objects can be the subject of endless creativity and humor. And so, I bid farewell to the paper towels, knowing that they had left an indelible mark on my college experience. And I would never look at a roll of paper towels the same way again.